invocation by Mrs. Tina Babin, District 1, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Lord, as we start this new year and this new term as members of this important group, we seek your understanding as we seek to do your will. There are problems in this life with which we all contend. We strive toward their solution, mindful that we are human beings and imperfect, but also mindful that with your help all things are possible. Lord, we gather here tonight to seek knowledge and for understanding. In peace and fellowship, we seek to learn, to know, to exchange ideas in the hope of making good, sound decisions that will make our schools even better. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Ballard?
Here.
Ms. Huddleston?
Here.
Ms. Thomas?
Here.
Ms. Fertitta?
Here.
Dr. Brooks?
Here.
Dr. Giat?
Here.
Ms. Bourgeois?
Here.
Mr. Tyler Dufresne?
Here.
Mr. Schwess?
Here.
Mr. Plaisance?
Here.
Mr. Duplantis?
Here.
Ms. Gisclair?
Here.
Mr. Gisclair, I'm sorry. Mr. Archer?
Here.
Mr. Bernard?
Here.
And Mr. Troy Dufresne.
Here. Thank you, Mr. Dr. Barrow. Item E, policy on public participation. It is the policy of the board to be open and accessible to all individual citizens who wish to express comments regarding agenda items before the board. A public comment period shall be held before the board discussion, if any, relative to an agenda item and before any vote is taken on a motion made in reference to an agenda item. Members of the public who wish to speak on an agenda item may do so by A, completing a speaker card and submitting it to the official recorder prior to the opening of the meeting. Speakers shall be recognized in the order in which the cards are submitted. Item B, when an individual has been recognized to speak on an agenda item, that individual shall limit his or her comments to matters that are strictly relevant to that agenda item. The President reserves the right to stop any comments when deemed necessary. Item C, there should be a 5-minute time limit imposed on any speaker or group for board meetings and a 10-minute time limit for committee meetings. For more information regarding public participation at the Lafourche Parish School Board and committee meetings, please review LPSB Policies BCBI and BBC available online. Item F, ceremonial oath of office to the re-elected and newly elected school board members for the 4-year term effective January 1, 2019 through December 31st, 2022. Administered by Judge Wiener, John Wiener.
President Archer, at this time I'd like to introduce State Supreme Court Justice John Wiener, who is a Lafourche Parish Public Schools graduate that we're very proud of, and also a former teacher of mine in college. We thank you for being here tonight, and we'll turn things over to you at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen. I have just some very brief remarks first. First, I am grateful and feel very honored to be called upon to ceremoniously administer the oath of office to the members of the Lafourche Parish School Board. I begin by commending each of you for your willingness to serve the public, and I congratulate each of you for being chosen to serve your constituents. As the superintendent indicated, I'm a product of the public school system. I graduated from Thibodeau High School in 1972. In a prior career, I was a teacher, and I am aware of the vital importance education plays in serving our community and our system of democracy. I also want to specifically congratulate the school system for the high accolades that it achieved, earning an A+, the 3rd ranked school system in the entire state. What a wonderful tribute to the hard work of its board, the teachers, the staff, and the people who work here. I commend you, congratulate you. What a wonderful, wonderful opportunity that's being provided to the students of the school district to have such quality education. Our future is bright in that respect. As a teacher, I can't help but point out that, as indicated, one of my former students is the new superintendent. I wish him well, and all the best. I'm extremely proud of his accomplishment. At one time I was speaking to this elderly Cajun lady about the joys and benefits of teaching. She had been a teacher in the school system. She was retired. I was still teaching. We talked about how you have an opportunity as a teacher to touch people's lives in a positive fashion, and reciprocally have them touch your life as a teacher. And I looked across the room and I said, as a matter of fact, I taught that young man over there. And she said, Shaq, I never admit that. You never know how them kids going to turn out. So what do you say? She says, all I ever say is that boy was in my class. Well, I'm very proud of the superintendent. He was in my class. And all I can say is I'm glad I didn't mess him up too bad. I also have to say that I already have in place a plan to replace him, and all of you for that matter. And that will be on March 11th, when we hold the annual Student Government Day program, where and believe it or not, this is the 25th year that this program has gone parish-wide, and it's a ceremonial program, as you all know, where high school students from 4 schools ceremoniously assume the position of all the public officials through the parish. And it's a wonderful education program, not only for the students, but for the public officials who students assume their positions for the day. I want to thank you all so very, very much for inviting me to be here tonight. And I ask you now to stand. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of this state? And do you solemnly swear that you will, to the best of your ability and understanding, discharge and perform all the duties incumbent upon you as a member of the Lafourche Parish School Board, according to the best of your ability and understanding, so help you God. Congratulations.
At this time, just real quick, if we can get all of our board members to come up to the front so we can get a picture with them.
All of our life challenges in front of them. That can mean anything. Okay, so guys, come across right here. We need staggered heads. Okay. Spread out just a little bit more here. Spread out just a little bit more here. Come up.
Item G, recognize Ms. Julie Bro, who vacated her seat on the Lafourche Parish School Board as of December 31st, 2018. Dr. Barrow. Yes.
At this time, we'd like to recognize Ms. Julie Bro from District 9, who served as a member of the Lafourche Parish School Board for a total of 12 years. And also, as board president for 2 years, from January of 2015 to December of 2017. Ms. Julie, we thank you for your service to the school board and for the time that you put forth for the kids of Lafourche Parish. Again, thank you. Mr. Ortega.
I want to take a picture first. Thank you, President Archer. Thank you, Superintendent Byron. I've had 12 great years. God is good. He has a plan for me. And as you said, my picture is in the case. I was president of this board. I worked my way up from being a board member to a chairperson, to the advisory committee, to vice president, and to president. And I'm very, very proud of what I have accomplished. So I thank you again, and I'd like to thank my family and friends who recognized my passion and dedication to public education. Thank you.
Moving on. Item H, election of officers of the Lafourche Parish School Board to serve for a 2-year period beginning January 9, 2019, in accordance with policy BBA, officers, president, and second vice president. Do we have any nominations for president? Any nominations for president?
I'd like to nominate
Ms. Marion Petita for president. I'd like to nominate myself, Al Archer, for president. Ms. Brooke Huddleston for president. Any other nominations for president? Or are there any other nominations for president? Or are there any other nominations for president? I ask for a motion to close the nomination.
Motion to close. I second.
Motion by Mr. Gisclair, second by Mr. Ravenard. We now pass the ballots. You have completed it. Finish the ballots. You can pass them forward, please. Do we hold the ballots? Okay. Ready? Ms. Marion Petita. Marion Petita for president of the board. Mr. Tyler Dufresne for Ms. Brooke Huddleston. Ms. Cheryl Thomas for Ms. Brooke Huddleston. Mr. Troy Dufresne for Ms. Brooke Huddleston. Mr. Barrett Plaisance for Ms. Brooke Huddleston. Mr. Applied to planners for Mr. Al Archer. Mr. Robbie Gisclair for Ms. Brooke Huddleston. Ms. Brooke Huddleston for Ms. Brooke Huddleston, President. Ms. Valerie Bourgeois for Mr. Al Archer. Ms. Tina Babin for Ms. Brooke Huddleston. Mr. Dennis Giod for Mrs. Marion Petita. Mr. Randy Schwesh for Ms. Brooke Huddleston. Dr. Mary Bro for Ms. Marion Petita. Mr. Wade Bernard for Mr. Al Archer. Mr. Al Archer for Mr. Al Archer, President. Okay, at this time, we would like to proudly announce Mrs. Brooke Huddleston as our new president of the Lafourche Parish School Board. Okay. Madam President, take the hot seat.
We now move to the agenda item of having nominations for the vice president. Do we have any nominations for vice president? Ms. Fertitta?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Dr. Mary Bro.
Dr. Mary Brew for vice president. Mr. Ray Bernard?
Is there a second to that, or no second? No
No second, just nomination. Any other nominations for vice president? Any other nominations for vice president? Nominations are closed. Ask for a motion to close.
Motion to close.
Motion by Mr. Robbie Gisclair, second by Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Since there are no other nominations, Ms. Mary Bro, Dr. Mary Bro, has been elected for vice president of the board by the general consent of the present board members. Congratulations. The next agenda item will be the election of 3 members to serve along with the president and vice president on the advisory committee of the Lafourche Parish Public School Board for a 2-year period beginning January 9, 2019, in accordance with policy BBC board committees.
Okay, and before we begin the process of this one, we just need to remind that at least one member from each area of the parish has to be elected to serve on the advisory committee with no more than 2 representatives from the same area on the board. So currently, we have elected Ms. Huddleston as president from the north area. Dr. Bro is vice president from the north area. So no one from the north area can be nominated to serve on advisory. So,
Can we open nominations for advisory committee?
I'd like to nominate Ms. Allen.
Mr. Ravenard nominates Mr. Al Archer. Any other nominations? Mr. Dufresne?
I'd like to nominate Robbie Gisclair.
Robbie Gisclair. Any other nominations? Ms. Fertitta?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Joey Duplantis.
Mr. Joey Duplantis? Any other, Ms. Valerie?
I'd like to nominate myself.
Ms. Valerie Bourgeois? Any other nominations for advisory committee? Any other advisory nominations? Any other nominations for advisory committee? If there are no nominations for advisory committee, we have 4 people nominated: Mr. Al Archer, Mr. Robbie Gisclair, Mr. Joey Duplantis, and Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Motion closed, so we'll pass out the ballots. I need a motion to close, I'm sorry. Mr. Barry, first, and Mr. Duplantis, second. So I have a first and a second to close the motion. Now we're gonna vote.
Yeah, but we can only
we
vote
can only
for
do 3.
3.
So your ballots are going to indicate for you to vote for 3 of the nominees. Before Ms. Huddleston starts to read the ballots, same procedure as president, vice president. Each member has to receive a majority of votes.
Mr. Barry Plaisance, voted for Mr. Al Archer, Mr. Robbie Gisclair, and Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Ms. Valerie Bourgeois voted for Mr. Al Archer, Mr. Clyde Duplantis, and Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Mr. Al Archer voted for Al Archer, Valerie Bourgeois, and Joey Duplantis. Mr. Clyde Duplantis voted for Joey Duplantis, Valerie Bourgeois, Al Archer. Robbie Gisclair voted for Mr. Clyde Duplantis, Mr. Robbie Gisclair, and Valerie Bourgeois. Mr. Troy Dufresne voted for Robbie Gisclair, Valerie Bourgeois, and Mr. Joey Duplantis. Ms. Cheryl Thomas voted for Ms. Valerie Bourgeois, Mr. Al Archer, and Mr. Joey Duplantis. Ms. Mary Fertitta voted for Mr. Al Archer, Mr. Joey Duplantis, and Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Mr. Tyler Dufresne, voted for Mr. Robbie Gisclair, Al Archer, and Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Ms. Brooke Huddleston, voted for Mr. Robbie Gisclair, Al Archer, and Joey Duplantis. Ms. Tina Babin, voted for Mr. Joey Duplantis, Robbie Gisclair, and Al Archer. Dr. Dennis Giat, voted for Mr. Al Archer, Mr. Robbie Gisclair, and Mr. Duplantis. Mr. Randy Schwest, voted for Ms. Valerie Bourgeois, Mr. Robbie Gisclair, and Mr. Al Archer. Mr. Ray Bernard, voted for Al Archer, Mr. Joey Duplantis, and Robbie Gisclair. And Ms. Mary Brew, voted for Mr. Robbie Gisclair, Mr. Al Archer, and Mr. Joey Duplantis. Mr. Al Archer was elected to the advisory board, and Mr. Joey Duplantis was elected to the advisory board. We're gonna have a runoff between Mr. Robbie Gisclair and Ms. Valerie Bourgeois, who each had 10 votes. So we'll pass out the ballots again and re-vote.
So on this ballot, you just be voting for one. I'll read the ballots for the runoff. Mr. Barry Plaisance voted for Mr. Robbie Gisclair. Ms. Cheryl Thomas voted for Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Mr. Troy Dufresne voted for Robbie Gisclair. Mr. Robbie Gisclair voted for Mr. Robbie Gisclair. Mr. Clyde Duplantis voted for Valerie Bourgeois. Mr. Al Archer voted for Valerie Bourgeois. Ms. Valerie Bourgeois voted for Valerie Bourgeois. Ms. Marion Fakita voted for Valerie Bourgeois. Mr. Troy Dufresne voted for Robbie Gisclair. Ms. Brooke Huddleston voted for Robbie Gisclair. Ms. Tina Babin voted for Robbie Gisclair. Dr. Dennis Giat voted for Mr. Robbie Gisclair. Mr. Ray Bernard voted for Mr. Robbie Gisclair. Mr. Randy Schwest voted for Mr. Robbie Gisclair. And Ms. Mary Vo voted for Mr. Robbie Gisclair. Welcome to the advisory board, Mr. Gisclair. Our next item on the agenda, approval of board consent agenda. A, approval of board consent agenda items. B,
Minutes of special board meeting held December 5th, 2018. C, minutes of regular board meeting held December 5th, 2018. D, minutes of board meetings member held in service held December 12th, 2018. E, superintendent's quarterly report for the period of October 2018 through December 2018. And F, proclamation observation in schools. 1, School Board Member Recognition Month, January 2019. Number 1, Black History Month, February 2019. And National School Counseling Week, February 4th through February 8th, 2019. I need a motion. Mr. Al Archer, and I got a second, Mr. Joey Duplantis. Any discussion? We go to a vote. Motion carried unanimously. It passes. 3, new business. A, to continue as the date and time and place of the regular meetings for the 2019, the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. in the school board office in accordance with policy BC meetings, and waive the policy for the month of March, setting the dates for the regular school board meetings on March 13th, the second Wednesday of the month. Do I have a motion? Ms. Valerie Bourgeois. Do I have a second? Ms. Tina Babin. So I have a first and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Gisclair?
Yes. I'd like to suggest relooking at evaluating all standing committees and move to the possibility of two meetings, board meetings per month. The first and third Wednesdays of every month. Meetings should be rotated throughout the parish. The first meeting of the month held on the first Wednesday of the month will be held in Thibodaux, and the meetings held on the third Wednesday of every month will be rotated between the central and southern parts of the parish. Any special meetings that need to be called can be held either in Thibodaux or in the central part of the parish. The 3 award ceremonies that the board must hold every year should be scheduled to occur in the central part of the parish, piggybacked with the board meeting. This will allow for easier access for parents and students, and the award ceremonies need to be held at a facility that can adequately accommodate the amount of people attending. This would affect policies BC, BCBB, and BBC. Most new members of this board have promised transparency and easier access to the board and board business. No one can expect the public to attend 80+ meetings a year to be able to stay informed. Streamlining our committee meetings and board meetings to allow easier access by the public will restore faith into the board by the public and businesses of this parish. Possible locations for board meetings in the central part of the parish can be the Media Center, the CMC, or Central Lafourche High School. And the southern part of the parish can be South Lafourche High School. There are multiple benefits of reducing the amount of meetings the board can conduct every year, including cost savings, efficiency of time of members and staff, allowing all board members to be informed on issues and be able to attend, not having to attend committee meetings, and obviously easier access of the public to our board business on a daily basis. Instead of having actual committee meetings with the committee chairperson, I would suggest that the president of the board would name a liaison from the board for each department, and the superintendent would name an employee to be a representative of each department, with the exception of the superintendent's evaluation committee. Departments could be as follows: finance, land and facilities, transportation, policy and procedure, insurance, academics, technology, superintendent's evaluation, and child nutrition. So if you notice, that's 2 extra ones that kind of came in there: technology and child nutrition. We need to look down the road with the possibility of the board being reduced down to 9, with the vote coming up very shortly. If the current committee meeting structure stays in place and the board is reduced to 9 members for the 2022 term, that would force board members to serve at a minimum of 4 standing committees. I went back and looked at all the meetings for the last 2 years and broke down all the meetings and how long each meeting lasted. I went a step further and researched surrounding school boards and other parishes and different boards within our parish. Attached is the data from my research. I also included what an agenda would possibly look like if committees are disbanded. So I do have some information to pass around as far as all the breakdowns of actual minutes and time that's spent at each meeting in relation to the rest of the parish and surrounding boards. So just, don't want to pass that on if everybody wants to look at it. So I'm bringing this up as at this point to basically, let's not make this motion now. Let's table it, let's bring it to discussion. We have advisory committee now set. Let's bring it to advisory, let's discuss it, and let's bring it back up at the February meeting, and we can make a decision from there before we would actually set everything. But just to kind of break down a few things, you're gonna look when you get this data in front of you right here. 2018, the Lafourche Parish school system had 83 meetings. You break that down, you look at Terrebonne Parish School Board, 70 meetings a year, but they have 2 board meetings per month. Greater Lafourche Port Commission, 37 meetings a year. Lafourche Parish Council, 29 meetings a year. St. Charles School Board, 32 meetings a year. St. James School Board, 60 meetings a year. Assumption School Board, 25 meetings a year. So that's my suggestion, my motion. Well, I don't know if we can make an amendment to this motion to table this, or I don't know how we would actually have to do the verbiage of it. So
Board policy currently states that at the January board meeting, that the board shall set the dates of the regular board meetings for the year. So this agenda item is just specific to the board meeting. Under the current policy, you're obligated to set those dates tonight. The board always can go to policy and procedure or another committee if necessary to look at proposals to make changes for down the road. But a lot of what you suggested tonight is out of the purview of what this agenda item is, and that would have to be publicly announced in advance so the public would have the opportunity to comment. So this is kind of a tight agenda item because what basically it's only saying is to set those dates, and the current policy states that the board meeting shall be on the first Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock at the school board office in Thibodeau. So what you're suggesting would require policy changes that would need to go through the policy change process. Now the committee, and this is strictly the meeting dates of the regular board meeting that the policy requires at this time. Later on in the agenda, we'll look at what tentative dates are for the current committee structure, but until policy changes, we have to operate under the current policy of the board. But it's definitely something that can go to committee and be looked at to determine whether or not to bring that proposal to the full board for approval.
Very good information, Mr. Gisclair. Thank you very much.
Motion's still on the floor.
Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, just a comment, that's a lot to digest at one time, Rob, it really is. And I would prefer, once committee assignments have been made, that the process continue through the policy committee, because this is a big step, this is a big change historically. So let's not rush into something until we have the opportunity to at least present it to the policy committee for their discussion and then bring it back to us, okay? But I appreciate the effort that you gave in making this.
Any other discussion? Any other comments? Mr. Dufresne?
I just want to piggyback on what he said. I think it's a good idea to start rotating the meetings away from Thibodeau and be fair to all of our constituents in Central Lafourche and the South Lafourche area. If we are representing them and their values and to keep them informed, we need to be able to be accessible to them. And the only way to do that is to take it away from Thibodeau every other month or every 3 months and allow them to have that meeting in their hometown. Somebody else maybe can answer this question, but I don't know exactly how long it takes to drive from here to down the bayou. It's an inconvenience. It truly is an inconvenience. And I think
100 miles.
to better serve all of our constituents, I think it's in the best interest that we definitely look into rotating these meetings throughout the parish. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Alrighty. The motion stands on the floor to continue with the date and place of the regular meeting set for 2019 on the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. in accordance with School Board Policy BC meetings. We'll go ahead and vote. Unanimously passed. Motion carries. B, adopt a resolution to present our legislative delegation requesting legislation to reduce the number of Lafourche Parish School Board members from 15 to 9. Said resolution would be presented at the next session of the Louisiana Legislature. Do have a motion? What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. We do have a blue card. Mr. Ronald Perry is in support, and he wants to speak. Mr. Perry?
Thank you. Good evening, board members, new and old. Congratulations.
New and experienced.
The clock is running. Let me get started. Some 10, 11 years ago, I came before the board. I was a board member. And I asked the board, because of two things, I asked them to look at reducing the size of the board. Number one, every school board around us, Jefferson, on St. Charles, St. Mary, everyone that touches Assumption, they don't have more than 9 board members. There are only 2 other school boards in the parish, in the state, that have 15 members. Okay? There's nobody else that has anywhere number between 15 and 9. Those 2 parishes are St. Tammany and Calcasieu. Both of them's budgets are 3 times our budget. And they have 3 times the number of schools that we have. Okay? And the second reason I brought this up is that we were looking down the line 10 or 11 years ago that our parish resources, funds coming into this, public school funds, sales taxes going down, and that we saw that if we're going to survive, we need the help of our public. We need the help of our people. So in order to get help from them, we had to do everything that we could, sacrifice ourselves, and that was one way that we could show them that we were willing to sacrifice. Because we would be going back to them, asking them for support. Our teachers haven't had a decent raise in 15 years? Okay? We needed the help from the public because federal funds, down. Funds from the state, down. If we're going to survive, we're going to have to take care of ourselves. And if we're going to be able to take care of ourselves, we got to get our public, our people, our parents on board and convince them that we as a board are willing to do whatever it takes, even if it means going to 9 members. Now, one other thing I want to mention. Everybody, a lot of people who are against it says, oh, we're not going to have equal representation. That's not true. This would go into effect after there's a census. And in 2020, if this resolution passes and it gets to if it passes this board, then goes to the state legislature and gets through them, then we will have 9 districts, probably aligned with the parish council districts. Okay? And that, we can handle that. And listen, when you do that, each one of those 9 members has the same number of people that he represents. Right now, each one of you represent the same number of people. Probably not now because the population has moved around a lot. And some parts of the parish are really overrepresented right now, and some are underrepresented. But with 9 members, you're going to have the same number, to start off with, you're going to have the same number of people in each one of those 9 districts. So, fourth or fifth time, I'm not sure how many times it's been brought before this board, and I want to acknowledge, the people who helped with this, Miss Fativa, Miss Mary, Miss Honest, Mr. Rick. There's something going on here. But thank you. Please give this some serious consideration. Think of our kids, our parents, our teachers, and the public, the general public. We've got to convince them. We've got to convince them so we can help those other three the way it should be. Thank y'all so much. God bless you.
Anita, thank you, Mr. Perry, for your kind comments. You've always addressed us really well and for your service here on this board. Before discussion, I need a motion. Dr. Bro, Miss Marion Fertitta, a second. Any discussion? Dr. Mary Bro?
I just want to say, this is something that we have brought up with the previous board and boards before us. This motion is brought to this agenda item from Ms. Fertitta, myself, Mr. Bernard, and Ms. Huddleston. This is something that I believe in. This is something that my constituents continually call me about and talk to me about. Like Mr. Perry said, our teachers have not gotten raises, our staff has not gotten raises, and this is the first step to getting there. So I am going to support this.
Ms. Fertitta?
Yes, and again, I'd like to thank Mr. Perry for his unwavering support of this way back when the last census was done. He and a couple of us, Stella's in the audience, we asked to look at a nine-member configuration using the parish councils, districts that had already been developed, and that was nixed. So that's how long ago that this has really been an item that we have talked about. And again, thank you, Mr. Perry, and I want to just ask the board members to please consider. This is something that our constituents, like Dr. Bro said, have constantly told us that they want, and I think we need to listen to what they're telling us. Thank you.
Mr. Bernard?
Yeah, it's not to over-dramatize this in any way, but let me just say this. Tonight, I think, represents an historical vote for this board. It will set the standard for what we attempt to achieve as a board, and will let the public know that we will react responsibly and quickly to their concerns. I really believe that the voices of the public and the businessmen and businesswomen of this community will now be heard. And it's time we get that, like I talked to Robbie this morning, that big elephant out of this committee and start concentrating on the educational issues that we will face as a board throughout our term. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Madam
Mr. Archer?
President, yes. Board members, constituents, we've discussed this issue many, many times in the past, and we're discussing it again tonight. I want to let you know that this is the first stage, the first item that we're going to agree to disagree. My opinion is, I always felt this way, that I reside in the 10th ward area. I felt that if we reduced from 15 to 9, that representation would be in jeopardy in the 10th ward area. A lot of the funding comes from the Port Fourchon area where I work. And I feel that we should keep it at 15. This is just my own opinion. Again, we can agree to disagree, but we still can carry on for the betterment of the district. But I just wanted to express that comment.
Thank you, Mr. Archer. Ms. Bourgeois?
Yes, I'm really saddened and disappointed that this item on the agenda of our first meeting of our new board that has yet to get their feet wet. My disappointment has nothing to do with whether I'm in favor or not. It just has to do with 9 of 15 board members are new. And I feel certain that being on this side of the desk is a bit different than being on the other side. Our feelings and understandings during our campaigns may change once our feet do get wet. My disappointment also is because this controversial issue has pitted our teachers against the board. It has pitted the public against the board, and even pitted some board members against board members. And that's where we have to professionally agree to disagree. Our teachers need time to heal. The public needs time to heal. We need to build back the trust which is needed for the best interest of our school system. And because it is my understanding that there is nothing that can be done until the 2020 census, I was hoping that this issue would have been tabled until then. We need to study the results of the census. We may do something tonight that we regret later after analyzing the results of the census. Who knows, the number may be 6 instead of 9 after you analyze the results of the census. Because, like you said, Mr. Archer, the 10th ward, I feel will be less, not representative, but have less of a voice, because we will all represent the same number of people. I expected this to come up in our term, these 4 years, but I do expect it to pass at some time. I just didn't expect it to be this soon. Therefore, for these reasons, I will be voting against this item and asking that you do the same.
Any other discussion? Mr. Gisclair?
Obviously, I think everybody in this room knows where I vote on this, and I'm in favor of a reduction. And this was one of the passions that drove me to be sitting in the chair I am in today. And obviously, the public has spoken. That's why I think we had such a large new faces sitting on this board. And it's been something that's been discussed way too many times, and it is time to move forward, like Mr. Bernard, me and him discussed today. Let's get this elephant out of the room, because if we're going to bring it up today, it's going to get brought up again. We know where the public spoke. The public spoke on November 6th, and they also spoke on runoff. So I'm obviously in favor of this board on this motion for reduction, and I hope we can get everybody else's support on this.
Thank you, Mr. Gisclair. Ms. Thomas?
I'm kind of in between with this because, as Ms. Valerie said, we're new board members. I'm always hearing reduction, but I'm never hearing no dollar amounts that we're gonna save. Nobody is actually giving me any information what I could use to figure out, will this help my district? Or will it help the school board as a whole? You're just saying reduce it. You're not saying the pros or the cons of a reduced board. I listened to the gentleman who was here, and this is the first time I heard anything, but it's still not giving me figures. For the new board members, I just don't think you should just jump into that, because when I talked about the board being reduced, I said I would look into it and I would do some research. I think it's unfair to the new board members not to have time to research this or to see something concrete showing us that this board reduction is going to really help, and just how it will help. Will it hurt anybody's district, or will it hurt the district as a whole?
Thank you, Ms. Thomas, for your comments. Any other comments? Mr. Barry?
At this point, I'm not sure statistics of what people want to hear, but this is what our people want. This is what we were elected for, most of us, obviously. So at this point, whatever the result is, it's going to be at the end of the day. We can't look in the magic ball and say it's going to work out just fine. But if this is what our constituents want, and mine do specifically intend, I have to vote for it.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Any other comments? Ms. Babbitt?
Although I am new to the board, I will tell you that in my campaigning process, I did a lot of walking around districts, speaking to people, and I will tell you that that was one of the big points of contention as I met my constituents in my district. So I am in support of reduction of the board, because I do feel like that's what the people in my district want to see.
Thank you, Ms. Babbitt. Any other comments? Mr. Dufresne?
I apologize in advance because I might be a little long-winded with this one. But I just want to say that, first off, it is truly a humbling experience and true honor to be here on this board because of the fact that I am a product of Lafourche Parish Public Schools. I was a former teacher here, and I'm pretty sure is the youngest member ever to be on this board at 25 years of age. So it is truly an honor to serve alongside all of you. But one thing I am not and do not want to be is a career politician. I want to be a public servant, one who gives back to the people. And I think it's time that we build the trust back and the confidence in us as a governing body if we are to get them on our side. We have to serve them. This election was a clear statement of what the public wants. They want the reduction. Personally, as a board member, it doesn't matter where I'm from. I'm gonna fight for the rights for each and every child. I don't care if you're just in my district or not. Every child deserves a chance. So I'm not gonna say, oh, you can't have this because you're not in my district. I'm gonna consider all children and make the decisions from there, including teachers. And even if that means losing my spot, that's fine. Because I've done my job and I have served the people of this parish. I want this board to be one that has a motto of promises made and promises kept. And that's the way we're going to be an efficient board and an effective board. There will be additional savings from reducing from 15 to 9. I would rather spend that money on a teacher's salary or a paraprofessional salary where they can have a direct impact on the inside of the classroom, whether it be secretaries also, bus drivers, cafeteria workers. We need to start putting them first. We need to make that sacrifice for ourselves of this board and show them that we're not in it for us. We're in it for them. That's why I'm here. I didn't run for any other reason. I must also say, as a math major at Nichols, a fraction of 1 out of 9 is a larger number than 1 out of 15. So you will be representing a larger portion, but it's still going to be equal representation. So as a board member, it doesn't matter where I'm from, I'm going to fight for all of our children. And one thing I will do, and I promise, is that I will never forget where I came from, which is how I got back here. Because I care. I see our teachers and students struggling. I want to make that difference. So I think the first step in making that difference is gaining our public trust back and reducing this board to 9 is how we do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dufresne. Any other comments? Mr. Schwett?
Yes, ma'am. I ran my campaign on reduction, and that's what my constituents asked me for. I had a couple people wanting to stay at 15. I'm voting for this. And when it goes to legislation, okay, another part of my campaign, I don't mind the legislation, putting this on the ballot, letting people of Lafourche Parish vote for this. And then we have the true numbers of do the people want this. But tonight, we have to give it to the legislation to promote this and to give this to the public, if they want to. They might not do it because they represent the public also. That's my stance.
Thank you, Mr. Schwett. Any other comments? Any further comments from anybody who has already made comments? It's a hot topic. All righty, I'll go ahead and close and we'll vote.
I have another comment. Okay, that's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Okay.
Motion carries. Vote is 12 to 3. Item Z, to consider the selection of the architect for the East and West School project and take appropriate action.
Okay,
Do I have a motion to consider the selection? Mr. Bernard? Do I have a second? Ms. Fertitta? Okay, any discussion?
yes.
Mr. Bernard?
Yes, I referred this back to the general committee because it was pulled at our last board meeting, okay? Because there were some concerns from our legal advisor as to whether we should vote on it at the last board meeting. With the concurrence of the board, Mr. Amity is here tonight. Possibly he could just fill us in a little bit on why he felt it should have been pulled last month and how we should proceed with that particular selection.
Lord, Madam President, members of the board, congratulations, of course, to all of you. I was a classmate of Justice Weimer, and we were talking before, and I said, you know, look what happened to you, and look what happened to me. And we weren't actually in the same study group, but he was always a bit smarter than I was. You know, this is again one of the things I wasn't satisfied that there was procedural issues that came up, and I had a conversation with the committee chairman, and I suggested that she make a recommendation to postpone this and then kind of drop it in this new board's lap. So this will be one of the things that you will have to decide, you know, how to proceed. This is a service contract, a professional service contract, so you have really the option, and the door's open as to how you want to move forward on this. And so I don't have any specific recommendation, Mr. Bernard. If you have a committee process, if that is what the board is choosing to do going forward, you could refer it to a committee, or you know, this board could make the decision, you know, just collectively, how you go about either interviewing the individuals, the firms that have, you know, submitted applications or proposals to you previously. And without going into great detail, I guess what I'm simply telling you is it's really at your pleasure moving forward on this topic.
Thank you, Mr. Amity.
Sure.
Do we have any further discussion? Ms. Fertitta?
No, I would like to make a motion that we send this back to the Land and Facilities Committee so that they can talk about it and then make a decision to bring it back to the board to see what they think.
So you'd like to make a second motion?
I'd like to,
amend the motion?
just says to consider the selection.
You making the motion to send it back to
Yes.
Land and Facilities Committee?
Yes. This doesn't say adopt or approve or anything, it just says, well.
Consider.
Well, okay, I'm amending the motion then to say that we move it back to the Land and Facilities Committee. Amend the motion.
We need a,
Okay, that's fine.
okay, do we have a second to amend it? Mr. Duplantis? Any discussion? Mr. Gisclair?
So I have a little bit of an issue. I mean, this is something I pretty much deal with on a daily basis with my job with construction and engineers and architects. The problem is everyone's cards have been laid out on the table. So we bring back whoever we decide as a board. Everybody's cards have been exposed. So then where does this fair process come at this point? You know, whether firm A knew what they had, firm B knows what they had, firm C, you know, do we open it back up? But the problem is everyone's cards were out there. So then if firm A that got it recommended was gonna get it according to scoring sheets or vice versa, and that all got pulled. But then does it become even more unfair, even though I know there was some issues with the original process, that's why it originally got pulled. So then we're gonna open up to, will we have more problems because we basically exposed every architect's presentation to this. So I don't think that's actually a good idea to amend this motion and bring it back to Land and Facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Gisclair. Any other discussion on the amended proposal?
But the committee itself could decide who they want to recommend. You know, it would be, and really for the board, this board to vote on it, they really don't have any background information. I don't think that they could really make a a decision. But if we brought it back to land and facilities, they can also say, okay, we want to go ahead and go with the original recommendation, you know, so, that was my reason for amending it.
Any further, Mr. Archer?
Madam President, in agreement with Ms. Petita as well, this board is new, separate, 6 of us, from the previous board on. But the new members, we need to go back into the committee and revisit some things there.
Thank you, Mr. Archer. Mr. Plaisance?
Madam President, I mean, the question I have is, when are we gonna get anything different, information-wise, in the committee? The interviews are done. We're not gonna redo them. They're done. We can't, I mean, like you said, Bobby said, we've already showed a hand of what they're doing in their process. So, what are we gonna be able to tell each other? Third-hand information? I mean, there's not anything that we're gonna be able to present to them.
Thank you, Mr. Plaisance. Any other discussion? Dr. Grove?
I was here for some of the presentations. They lasted all day. I wasn't able to be here for that. I wasn't chosen to be on that committee. I feel like, you know, everybody's cards will be on the table, but that kind of makes it fair again, because then everybody knows everything, so they can come back with maybe something better. I think for this board to make a recommendation on something that 6 of us were here and not all 6 of us heard all the presentations. So I think it would be a good idea for everyone to hear what they're offering so that we can make a valid decision, be it the whole board or be it living facilities. That's just my feel from that.
Thank you, Dr. Bro. Any further discussion on the amended motion? Any further discussion? So now we would vote on the amended motion.
The vote is on the amendment itself. The original motion is to consider the selection. The amended motion is to refer it back to land and facilities for further discussion. We'll have to do a hand vote on this since it's an amended motion that's come up.
All in favor of the amended motion sending it back to land and facilities, raise your hand. Keep them up.
I am.
Okay, you can put your hands down. Nays, raise your hand. Anybody abstain? Ms. Babin?
Yes, I choose to abstain due to family connections. I don't want to be in conflict of interest, so I'm not.
Thank you, Ms. Babin, for abstaining for your conflict of interest. Amended motion would pass.
Now the motion is amended to refer back to the Land and Facilities Committee, and you have to now have discussion and a vote on that.
Mr. Bernard?
Not to carry this on too long, but I would like to make an amendment to the amended motion. In this case, I would like the, not only to have it returned to land and facilities, but also to charge them with making a recommendation to the board, to the full board at the February board meeting. So we can get this process going to choose the proper architect for the east-west project.
So the amended motion, I'm sorry, motion to amend, I need a second. Do I have a second to Mr. Bernard's motion?
Second.
Dr. Mary Bro seconds the motion. Any discussion? Mr. Bernard?
Yeah, let me say this. All board members are invited to all committee meetings. Therefore, your voices can be heard and valued at those committee meetings if you feel that they are not leading you in the right direction.
Any other discussion? Ms. Fertitta?
Yes, and I was there that entire day. I suggest that we, to the committee, I don't know how, it's not really part of the motion, just a discussion, that we hold them at the time where it's convenient for more of the board members to attend. They were at 9 o'clock in the morning, they lasted till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I was able to stay, then I was able to come back to the next one. So 9 o'clock is really not a good time, so please keep that in consideration if they should meet and want the applicants back, just a suggestion.
So the motion and the second is to have Land and Facilities make a recommendation to the board for the February board meeting. Is there any further discussion on the floor? Mr. Dufresne?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say, I think it's something we should do collectively as a board. We need to display transparency throughout this entire process. And if with all board members present and knowledgeable on what's taking place, we can then vote in the right conscience in making this determination.
Thank you, Mr. Dufresne. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? We'll go ahead and call for a vote. What's that? Yes, ma'am. What's that?
Oh, I was just going to ask for a clarification. If the motion is to make the recommendation to the board as to the selection of the architect or group, and I don't want to make it any more complicated, but I think you also have to give some direction as to who you want the committee to interview, if you're gonna, or they may have to meet more than one time. So I don't know how we get, I want to make sure we get there properly, and that the committee is properly directed by this board as to what you all want them to do. So if you're going to direct them to make the selection, or make a recommendation of the selection to you, then I think there's got to be more to the motion. You're going to have to tell who you want to interview, so we can invite those groups to make a presentation again.
Okay. In that particular case, then I would like to say the top 3 candidates that were selected point-wise would be asked to make their presentations to the Land and Facility Committee, and their recommendation would be to the full board this February.
Okay, that's thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So you are, we didn't vote on the amendment yet.
No.
Basically withdrawing your original amendment request. And now you're asking with the
Top 3
amendment for Land and Facilities to make a recommendation at the February board meeting after inviting the top 3 finalists to present to Land and Facilities.
Yes. You probably need to appoint a parliamentarian as well to understand all this stuff. But yes, that is exactly.
Okay, so original amendment was withdrawn. We need a second to this amendment.
Second.
Mr. Guiot, Dr. Guiot seconds the amendment. Discussion? Mr. Dufresne?
I just think that the presentation should be made to the entire board, not just left to one committee, with this being a hot topic issue. We all need to hear these presentations. I know personally I would want to hear it to make a truly informed decision going forward. So I don't know if I would agree with giving it just to Land and Facilities and then making a recommendation with it being the current issue that it is. I would like to present to the full board.
Mr. Schwess?
It is January 9th. Next meeting is February 6th. Will this be enough time to get these 3 companies together, with this and have due time in this? Should we go to first meeting in March? Or, as early as they can present their findings and their decision earliest the February meeting, but no later than the March meeting. Give enough time for these companies, because you're giving these companies now less than a month, 30 days.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. West. Any other discussion? Dr. Bro?
And I think the point of sending it to land and facilities, it's not excluding anyone from the board. Because if they meet in the evening, and those presentations are done in the evening, then we as a board members, if I'm not on land and facilities, I can still come and hear it, and I can still make comments to land and facilities that would weigh in on their decision. So just because it's going back to land and facilities doesn't mean that the whole board is going to get an opportunity. Of course, you have to make yourself available. I just wanted to clear that up.
Troy, you got all of that? Mr. Archer.
And I also just wanted to point out that the committee does the work of the board, and all of you all attend, and they make a recommendation that you may or may not follow. In other words, the board, the committee will say, well, we recommend so-and-so, but it still is the prerogative of 8 of 15 members to vote for whoever they feel is the right candidate. So it's kind of like a platform for you to hear all of this stuff, and of course, you have those committee members there that you can default and certainly rely on their judgment, but if you want to be there to make your own decision, that's what I think the committee would do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Archer?
One more. Mr. Blaisdell, I don't know if you had any comments or at all. Okay, that's all right. Good, thank you, man.
And
Mr. Bernard?
yeah, and the only reason I said the February board meeting is I think we need to get this project started and out of the way as quickly as we can. The presentations are already on the board. Let's get this over with so we can we can get the East-West project out of the way and move on. And I agree, I understand what you're saying, but we all do have the opportunity to put our input in at the committee meetings. And I think that's important that we all attend those committee meetings. In addition to that, I think all those committee meetings should be on Facebook as well, so the public will understand exactly what we were talking about and why we were voting.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Duplantis?
If we look further down the agenda, land and facilities will be January 22nd. Of course, we don't have a committee yet, but we will be meeting, wherever that may be. So just letting y'all know that that's Mr. Schwartz's concern. Is that not enough time? That's only going to be one meeting. That's a meeting before the board meeting.
I think your concern was where the architect's going to be prepared, correct, Mr. Schwartz?
Yeah, and also facilities, everyone together, I think that's, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we want to get it moving, want to get it started, want to break ground. But we want to do it right.
No rush.
We don't want to rush this, it's. Then isn't the March meeting the second Wednesday? Yes. So it'll give it 2 months.
Dr. Bayron, would you comment on that?
The tentative dates for those land and facilities meetings is starting the week of January 22nd, which is when land and facilities would meet. I really don't know if it's enough time. I'm not opposed to March being the time. If Mr. Bernard would want to withdraw his second amendment and offer a new amendment to indicate March.
I will to indicate the March meeting and to make a recommendation
At the March meeting.
Do I have a second? Dr. Gia seconds it. Any discussion on Mr. Bernard's third amendment?
So at this point, the vote that we need to take a hand vote again that you'll be voting on is for the amendment for the recommendation to come to the full board in March and having invited the top 3 finalists from the original score.
All righty. So all in favor, raise your hand. Looks like it's 14. Any opposed? Any abstain? Ms. Babin abstains based on conflict of interest, correct? Thank you. We have no motion.
Now we have,
Could you read what we have just approved? Okay?
All right,
To
Dr.
make sure
Farrell.
we all understand it.
we now have a final version of
Final version.
the original amendment, which is to send back to the Land and Facilities Committee meeting the consideration for the selection of the architect after inviting the 3 finalists from the original process that took place to be presented to the board at its March board meeting.
And again, it passed 14,
The amendment,
the amendment passed.
you have to move.
Move.
No, we already had the original motion.
We did that.
You gotta vote again, though.
Okay,
It's that
Motion as amended.
That's amended.
because we already voted on C.
We need to do a hand vote with that one as well.
So to consider the selection of the architect for the East and West project and take appropriate action as amended. Hand vote, everybody, all in favor, raise your hand. 14, opposed, abstain, Ms. Babin. Conflict of interest, on the abstain, motion passes. Righty. D, to consider action with respect to adopting the resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in Consolidation School District Number 1 of the Parish of Lafourche, State of Louisiana, to authorize the renewal of special taxes therein, making an application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection with therewith. Do I have a motion to consider taking this action? Mr. Plaisance, Mr. Gisclair seconds the motion. Any discussion? Righty, let's vote. Oh, excuse me.
We're gonna do a board docs vote on this one, and also a roll call vote, call out on it, since it's a election. Is- So while that process for board docs is coming up, we can start the roll call.
All righty.
So, Ms. Tina Babin,
Yay.
Ms. Brooke Huddleston,
Yay.
Ms. Cheryl Thomas, Ms. Marion Fertitta,
Yes.
Dr. Broke,
Yes.
Dr. Giat,
Yes.
Ms. Valerie Bourgeois,
Yes.
Mr. Tyler Dufresne,
Yes.
Mr. Randy Schwess,
Yes.
Mr. Barry Plaisance, Mr. Joey Duplantis,
Yes.
Mr. Robbie Gisclair,
Yes.
Mr. Al Archer, Mr. Ray Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Troy Dufresne.
Yes.
The unanimous roll call vote. We're waiting on the board docs vote. Did everybody receive the vote on board docs? Okay. Motion passes.
We need to back up a minute. Ms. Thomas, you voted yea in the roll call.
I hit the wrong.
Was that an error?
Yes.
It was put on the record that your vote is yea.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Motion passes 15-0. Number 4, memorial resolutions. A, Ms. Kathleen Chasson, Child and Nutrition Manager. Mr. Robbie Gisclair.
Ms. Kathleen A. Chasson was hired by the Lafourche Parish School District on August 16, 1991 as a child nutrition technician at Golden Meadow Middle School. Ms. Chasson was promoted to manager and served in that position at North LaRose Elementary School. Ms. Chasson passed away on December 5, 2018, having served the Lafourche Parish School District for a total of 27 and a half years of service. I move that this resolution be adopted by general consent and a copy of this resolution be recorded on a special page of our minute book.
B, Mr. George Broussard Senior, retired teacher, Mr. Randy Schwess.
Mr. George W. Broussard Sr. was hired by the Lafourche Parish School District on August 29, 1966, as a teacher at Central Lafourche High School. Mr. Broussard left the system on May 31, 1974. Mr. Broussard was again hired on August 23, 1999, as a teacher at Lafourche Middle School. Mr. Broussard retired on July 1, 2004, having served the Lafourche Parish School System for a total of 14 years. I move that this resolution be adopted by general consent and that a copy of this resolution be recorded on a special page of our minute book.
Thank you, Mrs. Schwess.
I'd like to just make a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
President. I had the opportunity and pleasure to work with Mr. Broussard when he returned to Lockport Middle School. He is the brother of Elmo Broussard, who was our former superintendent, and he was a fine man, and the students loved him, and he did a great job for us. I just want to make that comment.
Very nice. Thank you, Ms. Petita. Any other comments? Not, we'll do C. Ms. Rita Sheremy, retired food service technician, Mr. Al Archer.
Thank you, Madam President. Ms. Rita G. Sherman was hired by the Lafourche Parish School Board on August 1968 as a food service technician at the Rose Carl Middle School. Ms. Sherman retired on February 24, 1981, having served the Lafourche Parish School District for a total of 11.5 years of service. I move that this resolution be adopted by general consent and that a copy of this resolution be recorded on the special page of our minute book.
D, Mr. George Walker, retired bus driver, Mr. Barry Pleasance.
Thank you, Madam President. Mr. George Walker was hired by the Lafourche Parish School District in November of 1971 as a bus driver for Lafourche Parish Schools. Mr. Walker retired on September 23, 1988, having served the Lafourche Parish School District for a total of 16.85 years. I move that this resolution be adopted for the general consent, and that a copy of this resolution be recorded on a special page of our minute book.
Thank you, Mr. Pleasance. Mr. Freddie Stewart Jr., retired custodian, Dr. Mary Breaux.
Mr. Freddie Stewart Jr. was hired by the Lafourche Parish School District in August of 1979 as a custodian at Raceland Lower Elementary. Mr. Stewart also worked at Central Lafourche High School, Raceland Middle School, Thibodeau High School, and the Pupil Appraisal Center. Mr. Stewart retired on October 7, 2008, having served in the Lafourche Parish School District for a total of 29.18 years. I move that this resolution be adopted by general consent and that a copy of this resolution be recorded on a special page of our minute book.
Let the record reflect that these resolutions were adopted by general consent and will be recorded on a special page of our minute book.
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to comment that I did work with Mr. Stewart at Raceland Lower. He also was a barber, so all the little boys came to school looking good by Mr. Freddie.
Thank you, Ms. Bourgeois. 5, tentative dates for future meetings. A, board member in service, Monday, January 14, 2019. B, Transportation Committee, Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. C, Land and Facilities Management Committee, Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019. D, Insurance Committee, Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019. Finance Committee, Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019. Policy and Procedure Committee, Thursday, January 24th, 2019. Academics Committee, Thursday, January 24th, 2019. Advisory Committee, Monday, February 4th, 2019. And regular board meeting, Wednesday, February 6th, 2019. 6, adjournment. And before we adjourn, we'll have Dr. Byron announce our new administrators.
Couple of announcements. We have a couple of new administrators in the parish to introduce tonight. We'd like to start off with Ms. Lacey Baudouin, who was recently appointed principal of Chack Bay Elementary School. Ms. Baudouin.
Superintendent Barra and board members, congratulations on being newly elected. I feel fortunate to be witness to your first meeting as a board. I feel very honored to be, had given the opportunity to be principal of Chag Bay. I will do my best to follow in Mr. Lee's shoes. And I look forward to working with the parents, the faculty, and the students to make, to help Chag Bay continue its success as a school of excellence. Thank you very much.
And also, I'd like to introduce Mr. Zach Hill, who is the new assistant principal at East Thibodeau Middle School.
I'd like to thank Dr. Varro and Ms. McPherson for the opportunity, and I'm just super excited to be able to work with everybody at East Thibodeau Middle School. And thank everybody here for what you guys do.
And I'll have to say, Mr. Lee, ooh, Miss Lacy, you do have some big shoes to fill. Oh my goodness.
I know, I worked with them before, I know.
Ms. Fertitta?
I just wanted to mention that Ms. Wendy Thibodeau is in the audience, our assessor. Oh, I'm sorry, not the assessor, Wendy's back there. Oh, yeah,
Ms. Thibodeau, thank you for being with us this evening.
Dr. Bro has an announcement to make about LEF.
The Lafourche Education Foundation is having a fundraiser. It's a raffle, and tickets are being sold. The winning prize is $10,000. So if you would like to purchase a raffle ticket, you can contact any LEF member, board member. I am one. And some of the proceeds go to the Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, which gives books to children over a number of years. So if you're interested, please see me. Thank you.
Dr. Byron, could you do a close
I
for
want to
us?
thank everyone for coming out to the meeting tonight. I also see former board members here, Ms. Stella Lasang, Ms. Connie Williams. Ms. Connie is also on the city council. Sheriff Weber was here earlier tonight. Ms. Christine was here. Ms. Fontana was here as well. Mr. Perry, we recognized earlier as well. And for our employees and other community members out here tonight, thank you for being here. We really appreciate having you here with us.
Thank you. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting.